Next week, thousands of people are expected to descend on the nation's capital for a No Kings rally. This is video from previous No Kings rallies taking place across the country in June. Well, it's set to take place on October 18th, right in front of the U.S. Capitol. The peaceful movement seeks to send a message to the Trump administration saying that America does not put up with would-be kings. This week, multiple Republican leaders called next week's event a hate rally.
This Hate America rally that they have coming up for October 18th, the Antifa crowd and the pro-Hamas crowd and the Marxists, they're all going to gather on the mall.
Señores, Donald Trump y sus seguidores MAGA están aterrados, completamente fuera de sí. Lo que se viene el próximo 18 de octubre, señores, es la gran protesta No Kings, No Reyes, la cual ya está dando mucho que hablar. No es para menos, un movimiento que está creciendo como nunca. Hablamos de más de 2,000 lugares confirmados en todo Estados Unidos, o sea, 2,000 ciudades, donde se van a realizar protestas pacíficas en contra de Donald Trump. Bueno, se espera que esta sea mucho más grande que la anterior, si es que la recuerdan. Así que bueno, señores, las ubicaciones están por todos lados. Ahora, lo interesante no solamente es el hecho de la protesta, ¿no? Lo interesante es cómo los MAGA ya están perdiendo la cabeza ante algo tan simple como una manifestación pacífica. Quiero que vean primero al congresista republicano Tom Emmer, es uno de los voceros más descarados a la MAGA, y dijo que el cierre de gobierno que ellos mismos provocaron tiene un solo propósito, y es ganar puntos políticos con, cito, el ala terrorista del partido. Escuchen.
This is about one thing and one thing only, to score political points with the terrorist wing of their party, which is set to hold, as Leader Scalise just commented on, a Hate America rally in D.C. next week.
Y si creen que ahí termina la histeria, esperen a escuchar a MAGA Mike Johnson, que también anda temblando con el tema. Johnson dice que está enojadísimo, porque según él, este próximo 18 de octubre se va a realizar un rally de odio a América, organizado por Antifa y pro-Hamas.
We're so angry about it. I mean, I'm a very patient guy, but I have had it with these people. They're playing games with real people's lives. The theory we have right now, they have a Hate America rally that's scheduled for October 18th on the National Mall. It's all the pro-Hamas wing and the Antifa people. They're all coming out. Some of the House Democrats are selling T-shirts for the event, and it's being told to us that they won't be able to reopen the government until after that rally because they can't face their rabid base. I mean, this is serious business hurting real people. And I'm beyond words. I can't believe they're actually doing this.
Y claro, no podían faltar los demás portavoces del miedo. El senador republicano Roger Marshall repitió exactamente los mismos puntos. Es más, ¿no? Se nota que hasta a todos les dieron el mismo libreto para salir a decir que estas protestas son peligrosas.
And then October 18th is when the protest gets here. This will be a Soros paid for protest where his professional protesters show up, the agitators show up. We'll have to get the National Guard out. Hopefully it'll be peaceful. I doubt it as well. So I think that they have to get that march done. They have to show their protest. They have to fight like they're saying here. This is all a political show. It's all a political scam right now.
Hablando del miedo, cuando le preguntan a Trump sobre las protestas No Kings en Austin, se puso nervioso. Le preguntaron directamente si es que él planea detenerlas. Y bueno, su respuesta fue... Mejor véanlo ustedes mismos.
The city of Austin is cleared to vote tomorrow to basically waive a $120,000 fee so that a No Kings, basically an anti-Trump rally can occur in their city. They're bypassing the fees, rolling it to the taxpayers. So my question is to you, what can the people of Austin, Texas do right now to make sure that their tax dollars don't fund a No Kings anti-Trump rally coming up?
Whatever you just tell me, I would love to do something about that. Bring a lawsuit, do something.
Mientras tanto, el grupo Indivisible lanzó un video exclusivo sobre la manifestación del próximo 18 de octubre. Y bueno, En teoría, pues ahí explican cómo es que se pueden unir, dónde pueden acudir y por qué es importante defender la democracia. Y bueno, es un video bastante interesante, vean esto.
I never said this journey would be easy, and I won't promise that now. Yes, our path is harder, but it leads to a better place. Yes, our road is longer, but we travel it together. We don't turn back. We leave no one behind. We pull each other up. We draw strength from our victories, and we learn from our mistakes, but we keep our eyes fixed on that distant horizon, knowing that Providence is with us and that we are surely blessed to be citizens of the greatest nation on earth.
Y es que amigos, hasta Robert De Niro se sumó. El legendario actor anunció que estará presente en las protestas No Kings. Claro, apoyando la causa de manera pública. Escuchen.
The original No Kings protest was 250 years ago. Americans decided they didn't want to live under the rule of King George III. They declared their independence and fought a bloody war for democracy. We've had 2.5 centuries of democracy since then, often challenging, sometimes messy, always essential. And we've fought in 2 world wars to preserve it. Now we have a would-be king who wants to take it away, King Donald I. Fuck that. We're rising up again this time, non-violently, raising our voices to declare no kings. I'm Robert De Niro, asking you to stand up and be counted in the nationwide No Kings protest on October 18th. Visit nokings.org to find, volunteer, or host a protest near you. We're all in this together, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ahora bien, es obvio, ¿no?, que los MAGA no tardaron en explotar. En Fox News, uno de los presentadores, que es Raymond Arroyo, salió a decir que los actores deberían callarse y solo entretener. Pero claro, no tuvo problema en tener a Kid Rock en el mismo programa minutos antes de eso. Vean ese momento.
I mean, look, it's time for Marty Scorsese to de-age him. I think the world's crying out for Irishman 2. That would be a better use of his time. You know what it should be? Not no kings. It should be no politics for aged actors. We don't need to see any more politics. Just do your job and entertain us. Just do that.
I mean, listening to, Mel Gibson talk around the edges about politics is kind of interesting. He's super smart, but he doesn't try to inject himself into daily political life. But De Niro's just so angry.
Well, his house
he's so
down.
angry. He's so angry all the time. I don't know if you can de-age the brain with the new computer programs that run the films through. I'm not sure the brain changes. That's the problem.
I'm not opposed to people who are in the arts speaking out about issues, poverty and climate change or whatever interests them, or if your house burns down. My problem is partisan politics that they don't know anything about. And it just estranges the audience and makes a mess of things. I don't know why they keep doing it.
He's kind of around the bend at this point.
Mientras los MAGA lloran en televisión, las protestas, ojo, ya empezaron a verse en distintas ciudades. Por ejemplo, en Chicago, ¿no?, donde miles de personas marcharon por la avenida Michigan bajo el lema Chicago no lame botas. Vean el clip. Y mientras el país enfrenta un cierre de gobierno devastador que Donald Trump causó, pues bueno, él continúa publicando cosas ridículas. Sigue subiendo fotos editadas de Hakeem Jeffries con sombrero, con bigote, burlándose, ¿no?, como si estuviera en un sketch barato de televisión. Y todo esto mientras millones de estadounidenses están perdiendo su seguro médico y su administración está regalando miles de millones a los multimillonarios y a los gobiernos extranjeros. Por si fuese poco, una de sus portavoces, Pam Bondi, ¿no?, la fiscal general, publicó un video, amigos, tan absurdo, en el cual aparece diciendo: Antifa, voy por ustedes, Antifa es mala, yo soy Pam Bondi. Vean este clip.
Antifa beats journalists. Antifa attacks our police stations. They attack our courthouses. They dox our law enforcement officers. No more. They are a terrorist group and we are coming after them.
Y si creen que esto fue raro de por sí, esperen a ver a Kristi Noem, que subió al techo de un edificio federal en Portland señaló abajo diciendo, ahí está la guerra, ahí está Antifa. Lo raro es que abajo habían unas 8 personas, la mayoría eran periodistas, y había uno con un disfraz de gallina. Vean esto. En serio, amigos, esta gente está completamente desconectada de la realidad. Y lo peor es que su paranoia los hace peligrosos, porque cada vez que se sienten amenazados, acorralados, lo único que saben hacer es atacar los derechos básicos, atacar a la libertad de expresión, atacar a la prensa, las protestas y a los ciudadanos. Ahora bien, amigos, hablando un poco de Pam Bondi, ya que vimos ese video, resulta, ¿no?, que esta figura, una de las más leales al trumpismo dentro del movimiento MAGA, al parecer está cayendo en desgracia. Y ojo que en esta ocasión no es parte por los demócratas ni por los medios liberales, sino que esto viene internamente. Pam Bondi, que en algún momento fue presentada como la abogada estrella del trumpismo, ahora parece ser una de las más odiadas entre los propios aliados de Trump. Quiero que escuchemos este fragmento donde afirman cómo es que surgen indicios de que Pam Bondi es profundamente detestada en el mundo MAGA.
Former Vice President Kamala Harris just sat down with our colleague Eugene Daniels for an exclusive interview that will air tomorrow morning on The Weekend, and she had this warning about the Trump Justice Department.
What the DOJ does, and you know this better than I do, is so fundamental to the backbone of the country, right?
Yeah.
The rule of law versus the rule of men. Can Americans trust the criminal justice system right now and what's coming out of the DOJ?
I don't know if we can trust what's coming out of the Department of Justice right now. And that pains me to say that as someone who spent the majority of my career as a prosecutor, where the work of a prosecutor should be to do justice. Many who have worked as U.S. attorneys, worked for the U.S. Department of Justice, talk openly and rightly about the fact that they should do their work without any fear and not in the interest of favor. And that so clearly is not what is ruling the day there. And when you have an administration and individuals who are manipulating the justice system of America in that way, they best understand that this is not only about something that affects the individuals that they're targeting, this affects all of us who believe that, flawed though it may be, that a justice system is actually supposed to be blind in the way that it does its work, not targeting people because of who they are, or for that matter, what they look like.
Jake and Maria are still with us. Jake, so how significant is it to hear that, not only from a former vice president, but a former state attorney general herself who came out and is now saying, can't trust the Department of Justice under Trump?
Yeah, I mean, not something I imagine she would have said during the campaign or any time previous to this, but also I think it gives it a little extra weight in that we know how careful Kamala Harris tends to want to be with her answers and how precisely she's going to structure whatever, new line she's going to push on that. And in line by in the sense that she's going further than she normally would in saying, like, yes, it is legitimate to have confidence issues in the DOJ around this type of corruption, not just historical dynamics or anything like that, but specifically the transactional nature of this administration.
What do you
Maria,
think?
yeah, do you see that? I mean, especially just given what we hear may happen to John Bolton in the next few days, what we are seeing Letitia James go through.
Yeah.
Does she have a point?
Yeah, I mean, it's not okay, right? And I think when you look, I think she's right? Justice should be blind, right? You know, I worked for a former U.S. attorney who, when he was U.S. attorney, he put both Republicans and Democrats in jail because they were doing things that they shouldn't be doing, right? And, you know, your political orientation shouldn't matter, right? And I think, you know, this also goes back to, I think, just larger trust issues in general we've had with our institutions, and specifically with DOJ and you know, both sides at different times, I think, using litigation in lieu of a political strategy. And I think that's just bad, right? And I think for us to really move forward to move out of this phase, it's like we have to back away from that. So every time you see Trump do something that's clearly politically oriented, as we're seeing now here, whether it's, you know, Tish James or someone else, you know, it's just, it just takes us a step back, right? As a country, frankly, as a country. And I'm also a big believer here, like, you can't do the whataboutism, right? It's just never okay. And we can't ever be excusing it or only being okay with certain actions when we're politically aligned with, you know, an individual, or we feel wronged politically.
So what do you make of the timing of Tish James? What are you hearing from your White House sources, given that there's, you know, 10 more years that could be, you know, put before court? Obviously, Comey's charges were because the statute of limitations.
Right, like right up against the buzzer.
But it does seem like Trump has upped the tempo of going after perceived enemies.
Yeah, well, part of what I'm calling around and I'm curious about is Lindsay Halligan basically not running this by Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi. And the fact that that's even like something that someone would consider leaking and having out there, I think is a very notable development in terms of Bondi's standing. But look, I mean, that's the question I've been asking myself on this beat, is like, they had the list pretty clearly in mind. There's this guy, Ivan Raiklin, who literally brands himself as Trump's Secretary of Retribution. Why weren't these charges coming out in the first weeks or months of them retaking office?
Well, to your point, Judge Shara Shenlin, we had on the show earlier, she interpreted that development about Bondi to be Bondi likely wanting distance from what Lindsay Halligan is doing. Is that at all what you are hearing, what you've sensed, or the question that you've had? Or how do you read these tea leaves?
So at least among like Trump's core advisors, inner circle, Bondi's standing is really, really bad.
Yeah, you have a great new piece out where you have basically polled Trump insiders about the rankings of cabinet secretaries. So
yeah. So I give a bunch of Trump advisors just sort of a form 1 through 5 rank who you think is in the worst standing with the president. And everyone had either Pam Bondi or Howard Lutnick in the number 1 slot. And they were often 1 or 2. Or 1 and 2, I should say. And there was one advisor who gets a little creative and he put Bondi 1 through 4 and then lumped in a bunch of other people at number 5. Now, I tried to ask follow-up questions here about Jeff Epstein and no one wanted to bring that up. But clearly Lutnick and Bondi having these sort of, you know, unforced errors around Epstein, and the fact that that seems to draw more ire from Trump's advisors than the stuff we've seen from Hegseth, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Kristi Noem. I can keep going, but.
Yeah. Well, no, I was going to say, you know, this is like always the thing with Trump, right? Trump was very clear in 24 during that campaign that this was his second term was going to be about retribution, like crystal clear. And I think this is always the way, right? People then go work for him and somehow think like, oh, it's not going to be quite that or quite as bad, and then find themselves in situations where they have to navigate the exact thing he said he was going to do. And so I do think you're seeing a little bit of that here, where certain folks are, now that they're actually in the position they have to execute on this, are a little bit wary, which I guess we should be somewhat grateful for.
So to pick up on Jake's reporting here, if you were to look at the trend between Lutnick and Pam Bondi, how much of that is driven, do you think, by Epstein? How much do you think it's the fact that maybe she's not moving as fast as Trump would like her in the retribution campaign? You know, we saw that and NBC News had this reporting that the message that Donald Trump posted on social media, where he's like, hey, you need to kind of pick it up, was supposed to be a direct message, but somehow inadvertently ended up being, our Wall Street Journal ended up being, put out publicly.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, you know, it's, I look at Epstein, and it's a little bit like, the dog caught the car, in the sense that, they were leveraging something that they felt was politically helpful to them, right? And then, she got a little too over her skis on it, right? And then she was put in a bad spot as a result of it. And so maybe she's a little bit learning her lesson from that, and not as willing to put herself in the same position as she was in that sense. But I think fundamentally, right, anyone who's working in the administration, working for Trump, like, you start out with a certain amount of political capital at the beginning, and it just inevitably, whittles down to zero by the end of it. And I think that's what you're seeing here.
Or conversely, you try to save it for this like worst case scenario, like a January 6th or something, and you end up letting a whole bunch of other stuff slide because you're like, well, I got to keep my punches for when they matter on whatever that other issue is.
Yeah. Maria Camella, Jake LaHut, it's great to see you both. Thank you.
Ok, lo escucharon bien. Incluso los propios asesores de Donald Trump lo ubican en los últimos lugares del ranking interno de confianza, ¿no? Dentro del círculo MAGA. Y eso, señores, es brutal. ¿Por qué? Porque Pam Bondi no era una recién llegada. Yo sé que muchos tal vez, claro, ya la conocen más por este segundo mandato, pero no es tanto así. Recordemos que ella fue una de las primeras en defender a Trump en televisión, en justificar sus excesos legales y, ojo, ¿no?, en atacar a cualquiera que lo criticara, y eso desde el primer mandato. Ahora resulta que la están dejando sola. Y si prestamos atención, por lo menos a lo que dicen los analistas, la razón es muy clara. El movimiento de Trump se está volviendo en una especie de purga ideológica interna. Al parecer, Pam Bondi ya no es lo suficientemente leal ni eficiente en esta campaña de Trump. Algunos dentro del círculo cercano, ¿no?, incluso hasta la acusaron de moverse demasiado lento en esta guerra política contra los enemigos que tiene Trump. Y claro, para ellos es un pecado imperdonable eso, ¿no? Ahora, lo que realmente me llama la atención no es solo lo que la están descartando de por sí, sino que ¿por qué lo están haciendo? Pam Bondi fue fiscal general en Florida. Claramente hablamos de una abogada con años de experiencia, ¿no? Y hasta cuando hablamos de imagen, es una imagen mediática muy fuerte. Entonces, cuando Trump ya la presentó en este segundo mandato, en teoría usó su rostro del orden y la justicia del movimiento MAGA. Ese es el centro de esto. Ese fue el uso para Pam Bondi. En este punto, ya la lealtad ya no basta. En el mundo MAGA, si tú no ejecutas los deseos del jefe supremo, exactamente como él lo quiere, y el ritmo que lo quiere, te vuelves prescindible. Y ojo que hay un detalle muy importante, ¿no?, que es el caso de Jeffrey Epstein, por ejemplo. Muchos asesores están evitando hablar del tema, pero ya se rumorea que las conexiones pasadas de Bondi con ciertos nombres incómodos podrían haber contribuido a su caída de popularidad en MAGA. O sea, en otras palabras, ya no es tan útil que digamos como un escudo político. Claro, ahora es como un lastre. Lo más irónico, ¿no, señores? Es lo de siempre. El patrón se repite. Donald Trump siempre quema a sus aliados con la misma rapidez con la cual los elogia en público. Lo hizo con Michael Cohen, lo hizo con Mark Meadows, lo hizo con Giuliani. Y claro, ahora le toca a Pam Bondi. En su mundo, la lealtad no tiene valor si no se traduce en obediencia ciega. Al final, pues, la caída de Pam Bondi no solo será una historia de traición interna, sino que es el reflejo de cómo funciona el trumpismo. Es un movimiento donde todos se vigilan, todos desconfían, nadie está a salvo. Pero bueno, amigos, ¿qué opinan ustedes? ¿Quién será el próximo en caer en desgracia dentro del imperio MAGA? ¿Creen que esto podría marcar el comienzo de una fractura interna mucho más profunda? ¿O solo será uno que otro episodio del caos habitual en el entorno de Trump? Los leo en los comentarios. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme en este video. Recuerden, como siempre, déjame tu like, comparte el contenido y suscríbete a nuestro canal. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.